This is going to be your guide for using Butterfree in Pokemon Let's Go, yes, Butterfree, in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. So today's question, is Butterfree OP? Might sound like a silly thing, but no EVs, no items, no abilities. Can Butterfree find a nice little home here while not worrying about getting one-shot by everything? It does lose the Focus Sash, which is something we're going to be considering, but is it a sleeper Pokemon? Now that there's not as much setup, Quiver Dance is actually the best move in all of Let's Go, so I want to investigate that a little bit. We're gaining speed, special defense, and special attack. Can Butterfree run away with battles because of that? Well, the stats don't make that immediately apparent. 60 hit points, 50 defense, 80 special defense. Well, that 60-80 on the special defense means we're surviving solid hits. 90 special attack, might scale, 70 speed. Is that enough to do anything with? Because without EVs, we're not getting like multiplicative stats and then adding on top of stats on top of stats. So we're going to see what we outspeed, when we outspeed it, how we KO, and that is going to be the idea behind the Butterfree. Looking at the weaknesses and resistances, Flying Rock, Fire, Electric, Ice, those just kill you with the way that our stats break down. Unless it's like a weak non-stab electric move or like a Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, or Ice Beam, Butterfree is going to have a really bad time. Immune to ground, so you have a switch in some situations right there, but a lot of Pokemon with Earthquake, they could also potentially threaten a Rock Slide or another super effective move. Resistances, 1/4 of fighting. Cool, 1/4 to grass, okay. And then bug. So, I mean, it can also find a chance to come in pretty reasonably, then everything else is a neutral hit, but the idea is we're pretty much a 2-hit KO in all circumstances before we get set up, so you need to find the perfect opportunity to get Butterfree in, and then it might go crazy. So, hopping into Pokemon Showdown, this is going to be the main moveset for Butterfree. Quiver Dance, Bug Buzz, Psychic, Mega Drain, Timid Nature, and that is because when we're going into those stats, it's really weird. So Quiver Dance is going to give us +1 speed, plus 50% on that first usage, 108, then becomes 162, and speed ties with 115 base stat Pokemon. So unfortunately, we don't get any safety. You know, if it like pushed us into a 116, 117 tier, that would be really nice, but we don't have that luxury, so it's going to be a weird matchup. Like if we have that +1, we KO a Pokemon, Starmie comes in. Well, Starmie is threatening on some super effective hits, but we will have our plus special defense already. So we like survive something, we trade, things get weird. It's just one of those things where we don't have the quality of life of just having outspeeds. That also means that Alakazam, Dugtrio, they just outspeed us anyways, and Rock Slide is going to be very unfun for us. So, and then even Alakazam, it can still throw back a lot of damage, but what about the Mega Alakazam? So 205 speed with a timid Mega Alakazam, so that means at +2 Quiver Dance, we outspeed Mega Alakazam. At +2 Quiver Dance, we outspeed every Pokemon in the game, unless they have a speed boost for themselves. So that's going to be how the speed breaks down with the Quiver Dance on Butterfree, and it's why Timid is mandatory. Would be nice to just kind of leech out a little bit of extra damage, but as you can see, we don't have any margins to play with, so that's going to be a thing. Bug Buzz. Stab, 10% chance lower target special defense. I don't really think that drop matters, but sometimes it happens if you're like in a tank matchup and you get that Bug Buzz, you get the clutch special defense drop into something that you can just like convert into a KO. These weird things happen in like stall-y situations, but overall Bug Buzz, main primary stab, Psychic coverage because you want to hit poison type Pokemon, then Mega Drain for sustain. Now remember, Mega Drain is effectively Giga Drain, 75 power. Showdown still hasn't updated that for the Let's Go format because I guess it would interfere with everything else, but 75 power using a +1/+2 super effective hit, finding potential one-shots, well now you're healing back almost all of your hit points on the Butterfree, especially because of that low base hit points. So this is going to be like your standard stuff. As for other things you can run, Air Slash for the stab, for finding some extra coverage, and then Sleep Powder. I don't think Sleep Powder works because there are no items. Focus Sash Sleep Powder on the Butterfree is how you kind of get a little sweep going in 7th generation, 6th generation, other formats that have like items and abilities and stuff. And also, Butterfree has the ability Compound Eyes. So that Sleep Powder then goes to like 90 accuracy or something. Very reliable, very good way of setting up, but we don't have that in Pokemon Let's Go. So I feel like, you know, you miss the Sleep Powder and then it's GG. Also, Sleep Powder, if they wake up on that first turn and then hit you again, and it didn't really accomplish much for you. So usually you want Sleep Powder and then try to get greedy on your Quiver Dances, but I don't think you can get away with that. I think you're just better off playing Butterfree with the more optimal coverage, your more optimal options right here, and then just trying to find a good chance to get in. You know, you lose a Pokemon, they have something that's kind of weak that isn't super threatening to your Butterfree on the field. If it's a special attacker that's like a low-ish special attack and you can just start setting up against it, do that. If you're coming in with like a +1 Quiver Dance against another opponent, that's also going to be really nice. I'll look at some other options. Shadow Ball, super effective hit, but you know the Bug Buzz, that's already going to be hitting Psychics. Psychic hits Gengar, so I don't think this Shadow Ball is going to find us much of anything. Whirlwind, Toxic, you know, here's the thing. People are making complaints that Pokemon Let's Go reducing the moveset makes it less competitive, which is completely untrue, and that it also makes it to where like there's less diversity. This is effectively the same exact Butterfree, you know? You're swapping out maybe Mega Drain for the Sleep Powder. It depends, like Bug Buzz, Air Slash, if that's what you want to run. It really depends on what's in the meta, and then that's how that's going to be playing out. But overall, Butterfree is running the exact same everywhere, and it's going to be like the same moveset roughly, so that's going to be a thing. Hopping into the damage calculations, Psychic from Alakazam, 2-hit KO, and a Bug Buzz from Butterfree is just going to be fine. So yeah, that's a lot of damage, but it's not enough to KO, but then we go into +1. So Alakazam hits us with Psychic, we use Quiver Dance, that's a KO, and now we're also going to be even taking less damage from there. So a Pokemon that comes in that isn't Alakazam, not using a stab move that's special attacking, yeah, we're going to be pretty good. Now the problem is we don't have any way of boosting our defense, so we're always going to be frail in that regard. And that's where we're going to probably run into problems depending on what Pokemon are coming up against us. But that's why you already want that +1 into a super effective hit, that +2 into a Bug Buzz or something. That way, if you can find that, well, the opponent, you know, you just outspeed them, you KO them before it worries. So the more Bug Buzz you can, or not Bug Buzz, the more Quiver Dance you can stack, the better your time is going to be. But you can actually use it to stop an Alakazam. Okay, that's points right there. What about the Gengar? Well, here's Psychic, and unfortunately, without the stab, Psychic not gonna be enough to KO, even if we get the +1. But the Thunderbolt also not gonna be KOing from the Gengar. Shadow Ball still also an interesting neutral option. The 60%, so let's keep an eye on that. 60% and then +1 special defense, 40%. So we actually become a 3-hit KO, which means we can set up 2 Quiver Dance in theory, against a Gengar that does not have Thunderbolt. So that means a neutral 130 special attacker, not using a super effective hit. We can set up 2 Quiver Dance, which is exactly what we want. Then we come in with that Psychic, one-shot them, next Pokemon comes in, we Giga Drain off of it. If it's a special attacker, we definitely survive, and then we just start converting 1- and 2-hit KOs off the rest of that. And if they only have like a Water-type Pokemon left, or if they try to get greedy with a Starmie, and they haven't watched this video, which is why you need to be like, comment, subscribing, so you know all the little matchups that people might not know, then you can go in and just be like, okay, all my health back because you weren't able to KO me, even though you might have had the speed tie or the outspeed or something. So that's a thing, and yeah, just kind of shows the Psychic, it's going to be more damage than the Shadow Ball as well. Still KO at +2 either way, but I mean, that's something you also want to keep in mind, that Shadow Ball, just lower base power, doesn't really have too much of a use if you can find another, like a Dark type move or a Stab Bug type move to use against Psychics as well. Going into the Starmie. So Starmie, +0 is going to be 44% to 53% on the Giga Drain, which is actually pretty oof right there, you know, even at +2, not enough to 1-hit KO, but we are gaining a massive amount back, and then depending on where we stand, you know, that Thunderbolt from the Starmie, that's even going to be weaker than Gengar's, and if we have, you know, +1 special defense going into this, we're fine. So that's going to be 3-hit KO on Thunderbolt if we already have +1. If we're trying to set it up, that's where things get weird. So let's go and reset this. Let's go and see what's happening. So Starmie comes in, outspeeds us, drops us to about 35% of our hit points. We use a Quiver Dance. Now, we need to win the speed tie in this situation because you can see Thunderbolt doing more than 35%. Even on like the higher end ranges, lower end ranges, there's no way that we win this. We come in on the Giga Drain and then we heal back up 35% or so of our health. So that's going to put us to 70%. We then take 45. That's going to drop us down to like 25%. But now we're +1/+1. We can finish off the Starmie, gain another 15% back. So now we're sitting at 40%, +1 special defense, +1 on that attack. And also at any time, you know, the Bug Buzz, that KOs, but it also doesn't KO at +0. So even with that super effective hit, Starmie just has like a little bit of natural bulk. So this is where it works both ways. You know, the lack of items. That Starmie isn't running into special attack EVs, doesn't have a life orb, isn't going to be one-shotting us on that Thunderbolt immediately, but we don't get the one-shots back. So I feel like this is that opportunity where you can seed in some kind of Giga Drain, Even against like a less bulky neutral hit, that's also something to consider. It just kind of works out, and then you're just taking less and less damage. But again, physical Pokemon, Rock Slide, very common, going to be a really bad time. Charizard Mega X. So I was like looking at some of the Charizard matchups. Flamethrower from Charizard X, that's just going to be a straight one-hit KO, and we don't really have much to do with it. The only real case I can make for Air Slash is against Charizard. So you can maybe already have a Quiver Dance in the back, Air Slash, and then try to do that little bit of extra damage, get a flinch in there, survive something, and then maybe turn it around. But even at +1, Air Slash is going to be a 3-hit KO, so that's not going to be that great of a time, and Flamethrower is still doing a lot of damage, so that's the thing. Charizard Y, it's even worse. Charizard, right, base Charizard, still also going to be pretty bad, but you're a Bug-type Pokemon, and you're a frail Bug-type Pokemon, and you're going up against a fire-breathing Lizard. Might not be the best choice in life to be going up against that. Now, what about the Nidoking? So this is where Psychic gets interesting. Psychic's a 2-hit KO. Rock Slide is a 1-hit KO, though, and it just kind of shows, like, there's really no chance that we survive any Rock Slide or anything. So if we're already coming in on +2, that's good. Coming in on +1, you can either choose to switch out depending on the state of your Butterfree. Like, if you're at +1 and sitting at 30%, you might as well try to tag that Nidoking and get as much damage as possible. Because if you have the +1 and you're sitting at a low percent, that means you just KO'd the last opponent's Pokemon. So at least Butterfree in this situation is able to go +1.8 or something against the opponent. Trade that Rock Slide, bring in something to finish off the Nidoking. It's going to be low, it's going to be weak, and that's going to be pretty good for you. Yeah, even, like, the special defense doesn't matter in this case. So there's really nothing you can do in that situation. Unless, like, I'm thinking, like, what if you get really funky with it? You get Reflect. That's when you're giving up coverage. And I was trying to think, like, okay, so I saw the Reflect down there, right? Reflect is right here. So you can run Reflect. It does exist on the Butterfree. But I mean, in that case, I would get rid of Psychic. So now we're not working against the Pokemon we're trying to find a neutral hit against, like or not neutral, a special hit against, like the Nidoking like that. But it would be weird, because if you already have that +1, you're outspeeding everything, and then you could put up a quick Reflect, that's doubling your defense in one turn right there. And then if you have that +1, Mega Drain to heal up what you took from doubling your defense, it's only for a couple turns, but if that buys you a second Quiver Dance and extra sweep, that's a thing, but at the same time, Psychic, not good. If your Butterfree does go down, you might have an extra turn or two. That way you can still use Reflect for a little bit longer as your next Pokemon comes in. So soft support while potentially finding a KO, but you do lose pretty much your most important non-stat move, because that Psychic has great coverage, as we've been kind of showing throughout this. Going into some other damage calculations, Alakazam Mega. So this is where if we have the +1, we actually get to KO, and Psychic isn't KOing us, even at +0. Look at this +0, boom. Psychic not KOing us. We're not going to KO, though. So, I mean, we get to survive, and we get to set up, but then we also just die because we get outsped anyways. So it is a really weird thing that if you're already +1, they bring in the Alakazam, and you're sitting at more than this many hit points. So if you're above, like, that 60%, like, if you're at 60%, and you're at +1, and you won the last matchup, and they're like, oh, I'm going to just wreck you with the Mega Alakazam, you eat that hit, and then you Bug Buzz them. So there are some good situations for this Butterfree if you get set up, because we're not even talking about, like, the weak special attackers your opponent might have that just have very little to do against you. Maybe if you're going up against a tank Pokemon, even if it is physical, you might be able to get the Bug Buzz into Giga Draining off of them and then making it work from there. Just have a lot of weaknesses, so the odds are you're eventually just going to stumble into something that's going to hit you really hard. It's not going to put you in an ideal situation, but if you are in one, Butterfree's taking 2 Pokemon, 2.5, potentially 3. If it gets that second Quiver Dance in there, game could be over, and that's a Butterfree sweep and Pokemon Let's Go. Not going to find too many opportunities to do it, but remember, sweeps are very rare in Pokemon Let's Go. So if you want to give yourself a better chance to kind of snowball the game out of control, you can maybe pull it off with the Butterfree. Venusaur. Venusaur isn't a 2-hit KO on Psychic, so it's a 3-hit KO. Air Slash is a 2-hit KO because we end up getting stabbed. So slight case for Air Slash if you want to consider it. Sludge Bomb, also going to be a chance 2-hit KO, but we eat a Sludge Bomb, we gain special defense, and then we can also just kind of keep setting up against the Venusaur, maybe the +2/+2. Unfortunately, the Psychic isn't enough, so it kind of invalidates what we're going for right there. But if you're already in a +1 situation, that's going to be pretty nice. You can convert a 2-hit KO right there, still keep your +1, and you just KO'd a Pokemon for free. So that's kind of what we're looking at with the Butterfree. There we go, guys. Wanted to go and check out the Butterfree. Don't really know what else to say. Like I said, I wanted to check out that Quiver Dance. Venomoth, We're going to make a case for Venomoth coming up next, and then we're going to see which Pokemon you want to use. So guys, enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.